As the US election enters its final days, the two candidates, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, are having two very different experiences. Kamala Harris and the Democrats are desperately trying to rebuild their tattered campaign, whilst Donald Trump is flying high on unprecedented buzz and a wave of enthusiasm that he must keep alive right up until Election Day. Sky News All-Stars Rita Panahi, Andrew Bolt and Caleb Bond exposed the behind the scenes of both candidates and how the polls are shaping up on the eve of D-Day. The US election campaign has been a roller coaster since official campaigning started in July. From Kamala's honeymoon period where she looked to be immortal, to Trump's shocking assassination attempts and a raft of stumbles, mumbles and bizarre accents, and everything in between for both candidates. A day is a very long time in an election campaign. But as we enter the final days of campaigning, there's no denying that Kamala Harris and the Democrats are struggling. And her struggle is made even worse by the fact that Donald Trump is more motivated than ever to destroy his opponent.
But now the fate of our nation is in your hands, and that's so true. What a rotten job. She's grossly incompetent. She's more incompetent than Biden, and I didn't think that was possible. Next Tuesday, you have to stand up and you have to tell Kamala Harris that you've had a terrible, terrible run, that you've hurt our country very badly. You've let murderers into our country and drug dealers. You've let human traffickers in. You've let terrorists into our country. You've accepted people from mental institutions and from jails. You've accepted some of the worst criminals in the world into our country. You're going to say, please say it, sir. I say, I will. Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Donald Trump has had consecutive weeks of genius media opportunities, reveals Sky News All-Star Caleb Bond.
You would have seen on Monday Trump went to Macca's, which was a genius move. That's McDonald's for our US viewers. It's probably one of the best images of the campaign, I reckon. And then this weekend, he went on the Joe Rogan podcast, one of the biggest podcasts in the world. That conversation went for nearly 3 hours, and they touched on everything from Trump's relationship with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to what he believes was the biggest mistake he made while in office. And I know, Caroline, that Kamala has done a similar sort of thing. She did the Oprah stuff and she went on Call Her Daddy, which is as well one of the biggest podcasts in the world. But, you know, trying to
but hardly
appeal...
as serious. I mean, Joe Rogan has all sorts of guests.
But what she has tried to do is appeal to voters who aren't necessarily tapped into politics. But Trump going on with Rogan, I think, is a really important moment in this campaign because it is one of the biggest audiences he could possibly talk to.
Yeah, it's a really strategic move. I mean, not only did he get 3 hours with Rogan, which I don't think a lot of people may listen to the full 3 hours, but that is his typical standard time that he gives guests. So it wasn't a special exception for Trump, but it was really strategic because, you know, Rogan has so many millions of followers, tens of millions of followers, mainly young men who are not typical regular voters in America, where obviously they don't have a compulsory voting system. So the main thing, I think, given that this election is so close at the moment, is to encourage people who may not be already heading to the polls to get out there. And that's exactly what Trump and Harris are trying to do right now. And for Trump, it is so clever to do someone like Rogan because, I mean, on the whole, they did talk a little bit about his appointments and things like that, but then they talked about aliens and is there life on Mars and, you know, about martial arts and UFC.
And Donald Trump backed up these media appearances with an electric display at Madison Square Garden, which Sky News All-Star Kosha Gada says is the ultimate flex.
You know, I think it's sort of psychology and optics where, to me, it looks like the ultimate flex, or it's a microcosm of where the race and the dynamics of the race stand as we sit here today, which is that Team Trump is on offense. the other side seems to be on defense, trying to go and defend voter blocks that are typically very advantageous to Democrats, such as blacks and Hispanics and minorities and women, versus here going into deep blue New York and just showing that offensive move. I think it's also about the lineup, and it shows the realignment that has happened. It's quite stunning in this campaign with RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Dr. Phil, who's this daytime talk show host, all sorts of people coming out. And I think the third thing is that it really is normalizing what it could mean to support Trump openly. These are, people from other spheres of life, and it's just a big contrast to some of the framing on the other side of he's a fascist and Hitlerian and all of that. I think that's what this was about, and just showing that they can, even though they will probably not win New York, they can fill up an arena of 20,000 people in deep blue New York.
Social media agreed with conservative commentator Charlie Kirk saying, Trump is totally locked in. He's the best closer in the history of politics. Watch out, Kamala. Trump's momentum has the Democrats very worried, particularly as Kamala Harris continues to serve up gaffes, stumbles and mumbles during her recent appearances, despite having the backing of the media, says Sky News All-Stars Rowan Dean and Rita Panahi.
But Rita, it is looking like Donald Trump will win. That is certainly where things are heading at the moment. But the key thing is that the Kamala Harris campaign really has been a disaster, however you look at it. She is just a woeful candidate. Put all politics aside, just as a performing candidate, she is hopeless, I would say.
Oh, she is thoroughly hopeless, but we have seen a media campaign unlike anything I've ever seen in my life, where we had even media that had been critical of her up until her elevation to being the Democratic candidate completely do a 180, completely memory hole everything we know about this woman, not just as vice president, but her record before that, and present her as this visionary, confident, just capable leader who was going to turn things around. And for a while it seemed to be working, and that was, I think, surprising to a lot of people. But that media campaign has continued, but you cannot hide the real Kamala from the American public. Nor can you tell them to forget what they have known and experienced.
And even the promise of superstar Beyonce wasn't enough to resuscitate Kamala's image, says Sky News All-Star Alex Stein.
Well, you were at the Harris Walls campaign launch, which was huge. It wasn't a launch, sorry, it was a rally in Houston. The numbers there were enormous. I heard 30,000 people showed up, but were they there to see Kamala? Were they there to see Beyonce? You posted this video.
The Kamala Harris rally in Houston, Texas was absolutely insane. You saw Beyonce and Kelly Rowland walked out. Kelly looked like Beetlejuice, and then after that, Kamala walks out, right? She gives him the hug, and everybody's so mad because they're like, what? Beyonce only spoke for 3 minutes? I thought we were going to get a free concert. Wait, what? What's going on? Wait, why is she hugging Kamala? I thought this was a concert. Oh, and then Kelly and Beyonce have a nice little moment, reminiscing. And then everybody realizes it was a bait and switch, and they walked their butts out. As soon as Kamala got on that dang stage, everybody was off, rightfully so. They duped us. They duped the entire city of Houston, Texas. 30,000 off people right before an election less than 2 weeks away. What is Kamala Harris thinking? It was a night to forget, I'll tell you that much.
These are desperate tactics, Alex. Tell me about the mood of the rally. Some people had lined up for hours to get into the venue. But again, was that to see Harris, or were they expecting a free Beyonce concert?
100% everybody was under the impression that Beyonce was going to do some sort of performance, and people were literally lining up since 3 p.m. in the Texas heat, just queuing all day until they finally opened the gates around 5 p.m. And then it took them a long time to check everybody in. And what was so sad is not only did you see a lot of African Americans, a lot of LGBTQ people, but you saw a lot of children that were so excited to see Beyonce. I mean, these kids, they're like, oh, I've never been to a Beyonce concert. People with their daughters, their cousins, and these kids, when they realized that Beyonce was not performing, you could just see the devastation on their face. The Kamala Harris campaign should be absolutely embarrassed that they would even do this sort of bait and switch operation and just ruin all of the good vibrational energy that they created when the event started, for it to just be a massive letdown. The energy was absolute, like I've never seen anything. Like your team lost the Super Bowl is how I would describe it, Rita. Everybody was very sad.
And Kamala's failed performances are only forcing the Democrats to become more extreme and desperate, which is impacting Kamala Harris's polling numbers.
Now, the latest Democrat meme, this one, that Trump is the new Hitler, it's going to backfire badly. I think we're seeing it already. Voters have seen Trump as president for 4 years already. He wasn't a dictator then. It's a lie to say there'll be a Hitler next time. And most voters will think that a politician, any politician who says he will be a new Hitler, is out of their mind, or they're a liar. Which is no wonder that Harris, who's been saying these things, is sinking fast in the polls.
Author Jeffrey Archer agrees, saying the Democrats can't win with Kamala Harris as leader.
Hey, Andrew, because my own view is quite simply that this goes back to Biden. He really should have resigned a lot earlier, and there should have been a proper competition for the right person to lead the Democratic Party. The result has been that the Democratic Party is now in real trouble. And I have been saying all along that Trump will win, but I am now absolutely convinced that the Democrats can't win.
I think this is why, I think you're right, that she's so inadequate a candidate. She's got absolutely nothing to say for herself. She has a record she can't defend and can't explain, and no policies that would be different from anything Biden's done. That this is all she's got, this hysteria, this manufactured hysteria that Trump will, admire as Hitler and probably round up domestic foes and stick them into camps, even politicians. Do you think that's it? And do you think it could possibly work? Because I've got to tell you, Jeffrey Archer, a lot of journalists, more fool them, are buying it.
Well, the amazing thing is that Trump's campaign has gone on in its own style, as he always does. And although many journalists have predicted he'd trip himself up, the truth is he hasn't. Because when I saw the poll yesterday from CNN that they were 47% each, I knew it was all over. Because Mrs. Clinton was leading Trump by 3 points. But in the key states, Trump won them and became the president. And once those two are equal, I don't see that the Democrats are still in the race. And my prediction now is that he might even win comfortably.